Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a lick up, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinidad posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
Today, my special guest. All right, this is special to me, my friends, my brother, my father, my mother, everybody that loves cricket and music. The legendary Sir. Don't leave off the Sir. Sir Curtly Ambrose. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Pleasure. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Again, we're at the wavy wicket, rightfully. You know what I mean? It's fitting.
I can't get away from the cricket scene, can I?
No, not even for try.
All right.
I'm sorry, your next album will be called Cricket. Yep.
Okay.
Just keep it in line.
All right.
I am from Jamaica, right? And you are as revered there as I'm sure you are everywhere. When it comes to cricket, there's the West Indies.
Yeah.
But then there's individual countries. There's Jamaica. There's, Antigua, everybody. But you're a legend there too. I always wondered when it comes to these rivalries, right? Island rivalries, cricket guys. Is it a real rivalry, or is it just relegated to the game at that point? Because you guys got to get together and play again later.
No, it's just about the game.
Just about that particular game.
Yeah, it's never personal.
Right.
And of course, it's about bragging rights as well. Because when they play for your island, for instance, I'm from Antigua, so I play for the Leeward Islands, and I'm playing against Jamaica. We want to beat them on Jamaica. And the other territories as well.
Right.
So when we get together as a West Indies team, I can be saying, remember that licking I put on you the last week? That kind of... So the competition was very, very fierce, but all in the good spirit of the game, and not never personal. It's just about bragging rights too.
I got you. I asked that primarily, very recently, Lionel Messi, the most popular soccer player in the world, some arguably say the best ever. I don't know about all that, but
I don't know about that.
I don't know. I'm going, but I digress, right?
Yes. Yeah,
so he was there, and it was a club game, so it wasn't country versus country, it was club game, and the Messi fans were out in droves. When he touched the ball, they went up, right? When he scored, they were there. So people were like, that's not patriotic, whatever. And the only reference I could draw, I said, but when Curtly Ambrose used to come on and play, only that cheer for Curtly though, even though you're rooting for Jamaica,
right?
But when he taking wickets out, you're mad, but that's the legend right there, right? So when we talk about that patriotism, I always tell them to bring it back home, reel it in, that thing. I will say this, however, if I was the Prime Minister of England, you'd never be allowed back in that country. I'm just saying, based on the stats and what I've seen and the terror, I mean, when I put by your passport, Curtly bin Laden or something, you just can't come back in the country because so many hearts have been broken. What's your relationship with the folks in England?
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we played last night. The Spirited Band plays last night. And the resort we played at had a lot of English folks there. And they kept saying something I've been hearing all my life. Man, we used to hate you when you play against England, but you're a legend. We love you, but you know what the meaning on? So they appreciate good cricket.
Right.
Even though they wanted England to win.
Right.
So I get that every time. You used to hate you. You used to destroy England or whatever. And I say, well, nothing personal,
Right.
And they say, are you meeting you away from cricket? You're so different.
Right.
I say, well, of course, when I'm out there, I put on my maroon cap. It's business.
It's problems.
I want to win.
Right.
But off the field now, I'm just a gentle soul, I'm different.
Right.
And they couldn't believe it,
Wow.
So I get it all the time. So I understand what you're saying.
All right, England. We'll let you guys go, but I'm just saying I would still not let you in. But that's just me. That's just me.
That's it. Curtly Ambrose. That's out. Robin Smith is gone. Curtly Ambrose absolutely dead on target. And Michael Atherton is going to do nothing more for the rest of this game than watch.
The West Indies couldn't have asked for a better start at all. Curtly Ambrose immediately on target. And England lose their first wicket on 0.
First runs for England. Oh, trouble here, trouble. This is absolute disaster for England. And that really is a complete tragedy. That's out. Robin Smith is gone. What more can you ask of Curtly Ambrose? If ever you've got a crisis, send for Curtly, and that's the end of the crisis.
Well, Curtly Ambrose, great fast bowler for the West Indies, has done it again.
Curtly Ambrose knows it's out. That's a thin little nick from Graham Hick. And this man Ambrose can do absolutely no wrong whatsoever.
That's it. Wicket number 5. Curtly Ambrose strikes once more. The Queen's Park Oval is absolutely jumping. England are 26 for 5.
Well, what a performance by Curtly Ambrose. I said all along, he's a class act, a truly great bowler. The only great bowler on show. There's some good ones, but great he really is. Fantastic performance. He's just blowing away England.
That's gone. Simmons takes the catch, a second slip. England are 37 now, and that is the 7th wicket to have fallen. And that's it. Curtly Ambrose strikes again. Graham Thorpe is bowled. Ambrose plucks up the stumps once more, and England are 40 for 8. And the West Indies take a 3-love unassailable lead in the series and retain the Wisdom Trophy. And Curtly Ambrose is being, well, they're trying to at least lift him shoulder high. West Indian supporters down there very jubilant. Ambrose with a souvenir stump. He's done it again for the West Indies. England had 196 runs to win the match, and they collapsed. Absolute collapse yesterday before the whirlwind that is Curtly Ambrose. He took 6 of the 8 wickets to fall yesterday for 40.
You are arguably the most feared. There's stats and analytics, right? But I'm talking about fear. That's somebody who's a plays sports. You prep for people differently, right? There's a whole team, but I'm only concerned about him. So you're arguably one of the most feared fast bowlers out there. Was there any batsman that you had to prepare for differently, or even before the game you were concerned about throughout your tenure?
Well, I wouldn't say concern because I believe so much in my ability. And I'm a very, very proud man. And anything I do, I want to be the best at it. So I've never really get myself concerned about who I'm playing against.
Right.
Because in my mind, I've always believed I'm good enough to take care of you.
Right.
Don't always work, obviously, because I've got my fair share of licks.
Right.
But that never deterred me. I've always believed that I'm good enough to take care of you. But yes, you know you're playing against some teams, and you know they're great. Especially have some great batsmen in that lineup as well. So we discuss them, how we're looking to get them out cheaply and that kind of stuff. But I've never really concerned.
Right.
Even if I'm getting licks, I say, you know what? Okay, today's your day. I'll come back for you tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow.
So I've never really been a concerned person because I always believe I can get the job done.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm very, very positive and confident in what I do. So I guess some may say arrogance or being cocky.
Confidence. You need that.
Yeah, I'm full of confidence.
Right.
And even though you're beating me,
I
figure, you know what? You got lucky this once. I'm gonna take you next over.
Right.
You know, so I mean, it just is a confident thing.
And which is required for you to be an athlete, right?
Yes, of course. If you're not confident, you're not gonna make it.
And it does show.
Yeah. Because even if I'm getting licks, you know, some bowlers can't take it and they'll walk away, shoulders droop, head down.
Right.
Not me. I'm still standing firm.
Right.
At all.
Right.
Let you know well.
Like it never happened.
Yeah, even though you're getting some ones off me, I'm still here in your face. You know? So it's just a confidence thing.
I love that. There's always rumors surrounding every athlete and the prowess of what they do and whatnot. There was a game, I didn't see it, but I was told that you shattered some helmets. Is that real? That like people helmet get cracked up and smacked up? Is that true?
No, it's not exactly true.
Statutes of limitation has passed, so them can't sue you know.
So you know, helmet protect players quite a lot.
Right.
Because let me tell you, that 5.5 ounces ball. Trust me, when you get hit with that, it's no joke business. Right. But yes, you know, sometimes guys get hit on the helmet, but you're protected. You know, so which is important. I mean, that's why I've given so much credit for the guys before helmet time. Because I mean, when you're playing against a fast bowler bowling 90 miles an hour, if you hit, it could be fatal.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not a good
those guys from the past before the helmet era, they were special.
So you probably weren't one to play it before helmet era either, right?
I just came just about the helmet came on the scene, so I was kind of lucky, you know.
Right,
But I mean, I've always said that if you got the protection, use it.
Right.
Because this 5.5 ounces, trust me,
bouncing off the pitch.
When you get hit, trust me,
it's a problem.
It's a serious thing, yeah.
Wow.
So once you get the protection, use it at all.
Right.
Don't take any chances.
I love looking in the rearview mirror a lot. Basketball could have been an option, I was told. Right?
Yes, you're quite right.
Did you, from a kid coming up, was it borderline predetermined? I feel like all the great people, it's like it was almost predetermined. Once you came out the womb and they looked at me like, you know something? Cricket. You know what I mean? Basketball, whatever the case may be. Was there a particular time in your life coming up when you made that decision, that epiphany came about that, you know what, cricket is what I'm going to do?
No, because growing up in the small village of Sweets, we get things from America all the time. So basketball was ingrained in me from early.
Right.
I just like the excitement in your face and posterize and all that. That was, to me, was excitement. My mother, who was a cricket freak, always wanted a cricketer in the family.
Right.
Right? So my older brother used to play for Sweets before he migrated to New Jersey to join our father.
Right.
And I was next in line. So she kept telling me, you have to play cricket. And she could call all the great names from the past. And I was like...
How old were you at this point?
Teenager.
Teenage years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because my brother migrated soon after. So it was teenage years.
So you weren't playing cricket from infancy all the way up?
No, not really.
No? Okay.
No. I mean, you fool around in the open field like everybody else. For me, it was fooling around.
Right.
Just to be a part of what's happening.
Right.
But for me, it was basketball and football. Football as in soccer. Because sometimes in football, people talk about American football and all that. So, so those were two passions. Still is. Cricket was never on the radar. I was like, man, I can't be out in hot summer 5 days, 6 hours every day.
Fully dressed.
Yeah, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
No excitement.
Right.
Basketball, 48 minutes, you can slam dunk and posterize people, and that to me is excitement.
Yeah.
Or with football, dribble past two guys and let them look stupid, and so those to me was my passion.
Yeah.
And then my mother kept saying, cricket, I said, not me and that.
Right.
And then when I was 20 years old, that's when I started playing cricket for Sweets Cricket Club.
Are you serious?
20. I played 2 years in our secondary school.
Right.
Primarily because the captain was from Sweets, my village. The vice captain was my cousin. He's also from Sweets.
Oh, so they're setting you up.
So they just dragged me into the cricket team, right? So I went reluctantly. I didn't want to play no cricket.
Right.
So I played 2 years in our secondary school. I was okay-ish. But still for me, basketball and football. And when I was 20, I started playing for Sweets in 1984. So a lot of people thought I started late.
Right.
And then, funny enough, the very next year in '85, I was selected for Antigua national team.
Wow.
And then 3 years later, in 1988, I was in the West Indies team.
Wow.
So within 4 years of never wanting to play cricket, I suddenly found myself an international cricketer.
Right.
And as I said, the rest is history. So I guess my mother had all this cricket talent.
Right.
And so I didn't disappoint.
Listen, it amazes me because, again, another great, Shaq.
Good evening and welcome to West Indies Cricket 101, the great Courtly Ambrose. A unique story. Now, I'm a CLR James man. That cricket goes beyond the boundary. And the greatest cricket book ever written. But it's a sociology book, It's a sociology book. A politics book. Here is why I'm talking this story, because, well, you all know we got a new test captain and a new vice captain. And to my dismay, and I talking before the two cricket man they come on, because they know more cricket than me. To my dismay, I hear these appointments were made based on some scoring system. I have no problem with Chase being the captain. I said that last week when Butch and I were on, that whether it was Chase or Imlach or the Silver, it didn't bother me. Warrican and Campbell and the other chap, they weren't in my thing. So I don't have a problem with Chase. When I hear this thing about scoring and points, this is not about beyond the boundary. Courtney Ambrose started at age 20. And really he's age 21 because he born 1963. People just retire sometime at 21. That's when he started. If you were doing scoring, he maybe would never have played for the West Indies. I am uncomfortable. I am uncomfortable with these models. I think that thing is destroying West Indies cricket. I hear it all the time, the matchups and the this and so. I love Ian Bishop. But every time I hear Ian Bishop talk about matchup, I just suck my teeth. I think that West Indies, I can't talk about no other place. I can only talk about the West Indies. I think our cricket starts at a different place. And when you talk about models and scoring system, I think a lot of people are left behind. I mean, here you have a captain and a vice captain who ain't get captaincy experience. You are crazy? No. I could make a case as Bishop Butcher did last week, and I supported him, made a case for Chase, lack of captaincy experience, but has a lot of cricketing experience that qualifies him. And we talked about the great Clive Lloyd, who, when he became captain in 1974, was not even the permanent captain of Guyana, but he had been around, he had played cricket across the world, etc., etc. But don't tell me, man, the vice captain gonna be Warrican. We are losing our cricket mind. Some people say we lost it a long time ago. But anyhow, that's me. And I wanted to say that before the cricket chaps come, because Butcher gonna take me to task. Because you know he's a beyond the boundary man, but he's a technical man too. He's a man that's got through the thing with a fine teeth. Then Trinidad said chitney. Right. Good evening to you all and welcome to West Indies Cricket 101. It's good to see everybody out, and I know we were away for a few weeks, and not me, Butcher and Adams get some blows for being away for a long time. You see, I don't walk about it. I did in the desert. Nobody am gonna come here to look for me. It's too hot, you know. But them by there on the East Coast, but it's good to be back. It's good to be back. There was the great Courtney Ambrose. You know, I toss around great fast bowlers in my head. You know, Malcolm Marshall, who they say is the greatest of them all. Andy Roberts, who doesn't get into a lot of people top four, but you know, is there in me top four. Courtney Ambrose, Michael Holding, Wes Hall. If I were to choose top five, I ain't going in which order. Marshall, Ambrose, Roberts, Holding, and Wes Hall. I don't think there's much between them. Maybe a little 0.5 of a 0.5 in between them. Right? Everybody, the consensus is Marshall is the greatest. If you put a gun to me and said, choose one of the five, who you gonna put up? For me is Andy Roberts. You know, I was frightened to say that in public because, you know, there's the consensus. It's like George Headley, right? I never see George In person, I don't think I've ever seen a video of George Headley. But when you're talking about West Indian batsmanship, I mean, the consensus is Headley name must go first. And then, you take it from there. So everybody said Marshall is the great Igor, but for me, Andy Roberts is me number one. But you're going to tell me, by you left out Garner. Somebody got to get left out 5, right? But anyhow, I think we are ready for the geniuses to come on. And of course, we are going to be talking about the latest news. Chase, as we said last week, Ruston Chase is the new captain of the West Indies team. We're going to be talking about that. Was there a strategy behind his selection, or was it based on just metrics and numbers and scoring? All right. Let me bring in them by. Good evening, Dr. Adams.
Hey, good evening, Dr. Hines, and our Sunday afternoon listeners.
Good evening, Butcher.
Good evening, Dr. Hines. Good evening, Vincent, and good evening to the viewers. I have been receiving few messages after our show last week that folks, and then with the appointment of Chase, folks are looking forward to hear our discussion. But let me quickly say, Dr. Hines, Sir Anderson Montgomery Everton Roberts is my number one fast bowler. All right.
At least we got something.
I know Marshall and so on, but for me, maybe there's some sentiments, but I could make my arguments for Sir Anderson Montgomery Everton.
Well,
Also, secondly, just like you, I got give fire range regarding the vice captain pick. So I'll stop there.
Vincent, before you go to you fast bowler, you ever wear a helmet?
Jump in here because there is no way that you can go with anybody else but Marshall. And by the way, I am siding with somebody who knew all of them, who managed all of them, the great Sir Clive Lloyd. Okay, Marshall is his man for all of the reasons. He and I have had this conversation over and over. He can tell you in terms of fast bowling, not only the physical being, but the smarts. He can, if you hear Clive Lloyd talk about this guy, but so I'm a Marshall guy. I'm a Marshall guy.
Yeah.
And right up there, by the way, right up there, and because I used to be an opening batsman, right up there next, and the numbers may not justify it, is Joe Gardner. And the reason is because of his height, and no batsman, especially an opening batsman, with a hard ball on a hard wicket, wants that ball to be climbing, to your chest. It's very, very uncomfortable. And that's what he does because of his height. He can get that ball to get up off of a good length.
Let me ask you this. You face Wes, right?
Yes. But not in a game. As a matter of fact, I faced him in nets.
Oh, you're lucky boy.
But I mean, I like Wes. And there's no question that Wes was a great in his time. But I would not, like I said, Marshall and Garner for me. And of course, Ambrose came after my time. But you cannot, I don't know how people could leave out Courtney Walsh. The man, I mean, you gotta give his numbers some credence here. You cannot get five. Well, how many wickets you get? 500 or 600 wickets?
500.
500 and change.
Yeah, 500 and change. I mean, by far, he's got the most. You cannot just discount him from out of those numbers. So he's got to be in my top 5. I know it's a tough pick, but he has got to be in my top 5. After, of course, like I said, Marshall is my man, Garner, and the rest. The rest are very close as far as I'm concerned. But Wes was a great in his time. Wes was a great, but I don't think that he matches up with the guys of
One of these days we'll have to dig deep into that. I don't think it's so much about leaving out. Because I think, as I said, I think in terms of ability they were very, 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 very close.
They were close. They were close.
And I mean, Roberts, for me, I will make my case for Roberts, because you're talking that when you say here are 10 bowlers, what are 2 or 3 things that one of them did that the others didn't do? And that's where I end up with Andy Roberts. I think there's some things that Andy Roberts did that the others didn't and maybe couldn't do. So I end up, you see, what we just say, Pip, right? It's not so much, it's Pip, because I have seen Marshall, and I agree with Lloyd. Marshall was smart. But if you listen to Holden talk about bowling smarts, if you listen to Holden talk about bowling smarts, and he will tell you all the bowling smarts that he got it from Roberts. Roberts was smart. You know, but like I said, it's Pip. But anyhow, we'll get back to that. You ever wear helmet?
Nope. And I've said this over and over. Helmet, this helmet has given these batsmen a false sense of security. It has destroyed their technique against fast bowlers. When I played in my time, people like myself, we were never scared. As a matter of fact, I used to always say as a little boy, the faster you are, it's easier, because the faster you are, you're not going to swing. All you got to look for is more bumps and pace. And that's much easier than swing and movement. But what has happened, if you notice, in my time without helmet, name how many people got hit in their head. Nari Contractor always comes to mind.
Yes.
But guess what happens? You look at the modern players, as soon as somebody does this and hit it into the turf, they duck. And guess where their eyes are? Their eyes are on the surface. So they're looking at the bottom of, and that's what happened to Nari Contractor, by the way.
He ducked into the bumper.
Without looking, the ball did not, and you know, but
the ball didn't come up.
The ball didn't come up. What we used to do, we hardly used to duck. We used to pull. You pull, you either go in to it if you want to hook, or you pull away from it, but your eyes are always on it. So we were never fearful.
Of course, was the Indian opening batsman, came in that 1962 tour, which the West Indies, by the way, butcher use the numbers, man, we won that 5-0, right?
Yeah.
5-0, and Nari Contractor was the opening batsman.
No. It couldn't be 5. Did they play 5 tests? Because they didn't play in Guyana. Because there was a disturbance time in Guyana.
Yes.
So it might have been 4-0. Unless they took that test match. I'm gonna check.
Yes, they played 2 matches in Trinidad. They played
probably because they didn't play. But they used to always play 2 in Trinidad. Because you used to play tests in Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, and 2 in Trinidad.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a 1962 tour. And
yes, 62.
Locked into a Charlie Griffith. I talked to people who witnessed it, and they say he was playing the bowler rather than the ball.
That's true. No, that is true. No, you because remember, it's an Indian team. They didn't have any fast bowls. So when you hear about Harlan Griffith and bumpers and that type of stuff, they had no technique. So he ducked into the bumper if he had the technique. Like West Indians. That is why. Remember where we came up? We came up in them alleyways with bricks and the stuff flying all over your head, and you no pads, no helmet, nothing at all. So when you get on a nice flat surface, a bump, you know what was our mentality? Our mentality was, and Basil Fari used to grind that in people like my head. A bump is a long hop. That's the mentality. A bump is a long hop. As long as you think about it that way, and as long as you the key is keeping your eyes on the darn ball. As long as you do that, you're okay. But as soon as this helmet came into being, everybody now technique didn't matter anymore because you get hit, you're gonna get hit in your head, you got the helmet on. So when, like I said, as soon as you make so, they duck and the eyes there in the turf instead of looking at where the ball coming from.
Yeah, Dr. Isaac played 5. Interestingly, 2 in Jamaica, 2 in Trinidad, and 1 in Barbados.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I know they didn't play in Ghana because 62 they had the disturbance, the 80-day strike and all of those things, so they didn't play.
Right. So for those
and let me add, Dr. Hines, let me add, in those days without helmets, them slow wickets that you see Barbados and Jamaica wicket, it's 10 times faster than them things you get in nowadays.
Oh,
and
yes.
Those were the days without helmet.
But you know, even when helmet came in, Vivian Richards and Richie Richardson didn't wear helmet.
Yeah. Until I think it's at the end of the Richie career he started wearing helmets.
Yes, I think he put on a helmet, and I was always intrigued by Richie's helmet and Carl Hooper helmet.
Yeah, no grill.
No grill. I was always intrigued by that. So even though they were wearing the helmet, I used to say them about wearing helmet for style, rather than thing. So no, that is to confirm what you're saying. Yeah? That's to confirm what you are saying, Adi, which is that once that helmet goes on your head, right, it messes with your technique.
Yep.
It messes with your technique. I mean, I couldn't see Roy Fredericks.
Nope. Rohan Kanai.
I think if those guys wore helmet, they would no longer be who they were, right? So quite interesting. Anyhow, I like that. I like what Butcher used to say, that a bong says a long hop.
It is a long hop. That's the mentality. It's a long. As soon as somebody hit a shot, it's a long hop. That's how you bowl long hop.
That's deep philosophy, man. That's deep philosophy.
The old boy was a philosopher.
Yeah, he was.
You bowling a short ball at 90 miles per hour, telling me that it's a long hop.
I can tell you a story and the Stanley's Mark. I'm passing over the story is with Mark Harper. Mark Harper was coming up, young hot shot. He played for DCC. I was the captain. 1973, I remember it. As I had just come off, with my accident and stuff. So we playing a GSC, the hardest wicket in Guyana. So Crafty with the tail up one afternoon against DCC. Crafty carried the first 3. Bill White, Andrew Light, and somebody else. And Mark comes in. First ball, a bumper, knock Mark in his chest. And Mark come down to me, said, "Boy, Coffee, I'm playing fair, So I go down to you, I say, youngster, go that end, and you watch at me here, there. And then I go to Crafty. I say, you see them long hops, you're bowling to them little boys, bowl it to me now. And I know the next delivery was the same thing, long up, and I come and I pull you over mid-wicket. Now, when you hitting a bumper over mid-wicket, you see
it already.
That is fast bowler, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what was funny, so the afternoon I get run out, I think it was 80-something, 87, I get run out. So I pass and Crafty to go to the pavilion. Hey, Crafty and turn to him, you see, you run out yourself because you're not coming back on.
But the thing about the helmets with the modern batters, I think also the thing is, I think there's a lack of practice against short bowling as maybe other eras because of the limitations of how many short balls you're allowed to bowl in overs in the various formats. In the past, a guy could run up and bowl 6 short balls at you. So you always have to be ready for it. But today, with the restrictions, they don't get exposed to it and then added with the helmet. That's why the techniques are not the same. And I think also the holding the bat up in the air is not the best technique because it's hard to cock your wrist. When you swing the bat up, you get the wrist cocked. And you could go from high to low easier, or even go up if you want to go up, right? That cocking of the wrist, you don't get it with the holding the bat up air to to play the. You stay just like a baseball guy, or So, and I learned that little technique from a man who used to hook well, Ian Chappell.
Oh yeah, he was hook man. Yeah, he was fearless. He was something else. He was something else.
But even, I mean, the basic technique of batting is only recently. The only person who used to keep the bat in the air was this guy, Greg. Tony Greg.
But he didn't keep his bat in the air like these guys. He just held it up above the ground because he was so tall, so he wouldn't be hunched over. But these guys, since these guys with the baseball style, you don't see, they probably could pull good, but when the ball gets a certain height, they don't, they're not. It's not the same like the guys of the past.
Yeah, and then they're susceptible to good Yorkers.
Good Yorkers.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna get there because in conversation with Basil Fad in those times, he said what you got to do, make two actions. When your bat, the technique was you keep your bat on the ground. Okay, it's there, so it's a free flow. But he said when like when you got your bat up in the air and you get a fast Yorker, it's hard for you to even handle it. So you can imagine them guys who carrying the bat way up here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And talking about Garner, I mean, them boys, they say Garner and Ambrose would clean them up.
Yes.
Clean them up anytime because they were great exponents of the Yorker. They would clean them up anytime. Garner was tall.
Very tall.
He wasn't known so much for putting it on your shoulder. He was known for putting it on your toes. That is yeah. Go ahead.
And then too, just like Vincent said, because of his extra height, he gets the ball to bounce higher off a good length. So for the regular bowler, you play the ball nicely like this off your back foot. But that extra bounce, and anybody who played cricket, the one thing a batter you can't account for is the ball bouncing extra. You can see the ball because you're gonna make your movement based on the length and the line, right? And if that ball bounce extra, you can't account for it. All you put in then is the ball to miss the bat.
Basil, and you might remember, I think it was Cameron was his name, because I was disappointed his career didn't go for two. I think he was from the islands. I went up for a test match.
Oh, Cameron Coffey.
Against India. I saw him against India at border. And
yes, he did.
He had Tendulkar and all them on top of the toes.
He's a big, tall guy. Very big, tall guy. Very tall guy.
Uncomfortable Tendulkar drive it and all at border of all places because he was getting that ball.
You get extra bounce.
His career didn't go for too long.
No. He actually lives in New York. He's in the IT field these days.
Right. He played a few years, He played over like a 5-year span. But
yeah. I think he played like about between 20 and 30 test matches. Yeah.
This boy was tall too. From Trinidad, and he played longer. Bishop Nephew. What's his name?
No, you talking about Tony Gray?
Not Tony. Well, Tony played a couple of matches. I'm talking about the other one, man. He had Space Teeth. He got Space Teeth.
Marv Dillon. Marv Dillon. Yeah, he's a tall guy too.
But Doc, before we get on to something else, I've got to agree with you totally with this thing that Bishop mentioned all this time about this nonsense about matchups. You want to tell me you got a left-hander? So what happened, Gary Sobers, and then you, because you're left-handers, you keeping them away from an off spin or somebody going there. I mean, it's just nonsense. Somebody's gonna get to test level, for example, and then throughout the entire, they know for play them kinds of things that leaving them. For example, as a matter of fact, I and many other batsmen, I always prefer the ball that left me rather than the one that is coming into me, because because of my style, it gives me room to play my shots on the offside. But then some onside players like that say Mark Carper, he would eat up
the one coming back
because the answer, so this is all nonsense about
I mean, what you saying there, Vincent? I remember Rohan Kanai saying something once that we always talk about conditions. The green top is a this and the, And can I smile and say, batsmen make the conditions, not the other way around.
Yep,
And it's what you're saying there, because based on your style,
that's exactly correct.
that's what makes the conditions. Even though, yes, we know the pitch got bounce and pace, but at the end of the day, the difficulty in playing or what is going to be based on your style of play, not the
Yep,
conditions.
absolutely, absolutely.
Good evening and welcome to West Indies Cricket 101. Basil Butcher Jr. and Dr. Vincent Adams, former Guyanese opening batsman, here tonight. Lots to talk about. Of course, we now have a new West Indies Test captain and a new vice captain, and we are going to be talking about the manner in which they arrived at these decisions. I think they got the one decision right, the captaincy right. I like I said, when you start to tell me about the manner, but I am not the expert. The experts are Basil Butcher Jr., and of course, he has pedigree. Well, you all are West Indians, you all know.
In the
and Vincent Adams, who of course is the maker of pedigree. Because he was actually out there at a time when they weren't wearing helmets, among other things. Both Basil and Adi, I want to. Ambrose started at playing cricket at age 2021. Is there? I was boxing my brains earlier today. Is there a parallel? Is there a parallel in our cricket of anybody who started that late and then went on to be that great? I know there's some people who started late, but can you all think of anyone who started that late and went on to be that great? And what are there any advantages of starting the game that late?
No, I don't think there are any advantages. I think Ambrose is truly an outlier. I mean, and you would look at that across sports, any kind of elite sports, that someone would start playing that sport at such a late age and still reach the heights of excellence in which he did. So, I mean, listening to his story again, I had heard about how late he started, but then to hear it again, to hear him go through the stages, I go like, dang, he was definitely a phenomenon. And obviously, he was a very good athlete because of the two other sports that he played, basketball and football. He developed a lot of good well, we in the sports and condition or movement conditioning call it athletic vocabulary. So that experience, I will argue, is what allowed him to transfer to playing cricket and progress so quickly through the ranks of cricket to become where he is. Because I remember years ago we were talking about the same whole process of elite athletic development in one of my classes, and there was a woman from, I think she was an Australian, and you know the whole thing about this 10,000 hours to become an expert, this that theory. Well, she shattered the theory and became, I forgot which sport it was, but when we looked in her background through her teenage year, she had played several sports at a high level. So when she made that transition to this sport, she brought all that athletic movement skill to that sport. So it was just a matter of reps. And she, rather than taking the 10,000, she took more like 2,000 plus hours to achieve elite proficiency. So I think that might be playing a role. And this is why, for example, it's important for us to study all our great players and the process in which they went through to become what they become. So we could take that information and institutionalize it in our coaching to to our young players, because as we always say, there's always clues in success.
And you took that out of my mouth, because that's where I was trying to gonna try to get Adi to go. When you consider that by the time Sobers was 21,
scored triple century.
He scored a triple century, beating the world record. He had 5 years experience. And when you take that and put it alongside Ambrose, who's now coming in at 21, and one could argue, in a general way, that Sobers and Ambrose meet up at the same place. Clearly, Sobers is out of the sport, so we're not talking about. We're talking about the pinnacle. We're talking about the pinnacle, that they ended up the same place. And so there is, I like the term you use about, what do you call it? Something about the sport.
Athletic vocabulary. Athletic vocabulary.
And I want to be a little cheeky here and say that there is something about the human environment. The human environment and how that plays on the evolution of players. And given our islandness, because we are really separate islands in a cluster, but each island over time has developed its own motion, its own rhythm, and so on and so forth. And perhaps our greatness is when we bring all of that together. We are an island in a political sense, but geographically we aren't an island. And when you take somebody like yourself, Adi, who didn't come from a cricketing nursery, and you come from Linden clearly not a cricket nursery. If Linden is a nursery for anything over the years, as I remember, it's athletics.
And football.
And so the question, how do we answer these so-called what others may call anomalies? Because clearly Ambrose is an anomaly. So I mean, and Adi, you are an anomaly. So that's where I was going, in the sense that you come from a place that is not your traditional nursery. Talk to us. I mean, I know it's a go wrong, come wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, Linden, we never had a turf wicket until Basil Butcher father came to Linden and brought turf from Diamond to build a wicket. We used to play on sand and clay. We had a red, when it's thing hard, it's like concrete, and the ball, we had some all over your head. We play in them alleys from brick and all kinds of stuff. So that's how I and others came up until Basil Butcher father came. That was when we had the first turf wicket in ever with dirt or clay from Diamond. And you look at you talk to Basil's father, and he would tell you, even on the quarantine, they used to play on boozy wickets. Which is paddy, and but it wasn't turf either. So when you come in that environment, that's what I'm saying. You go back, you're not fearful of anything. The ball turning and bouncing and flying. And that Michael Bowling used to pelt like hell, man pelting, but you'd up in them street corners and thing, and man pelting, but you got to start up. But we're talking about this age thing, and obviously Ambrose is an anomaly. But I think, and it couldn't have, I don't know if Basil or you could, there's nobody could have done what he's done at that age as a batsman. Totally different.
I agree.
Totally
I agree. Because I'd say something, because Sir Andy Roberts has said this to me. When West Indies was going to South Africa, you remember that guy at the time, the fast bowler from Barbados, McAllister, was creating havoc, a little bit of havoc in the first class. And actually, he was selected to go to South Africa, but apparently his fitness condition was not up to par. And Sir Andy was saying he would not have a problem. He doesn't have a problem if you take a young raw fast bowler on tour, because when you got pace, you got a wider margin of error to get through it. But a batsman that's inexperienced, vastly inexperienced, and have not showed you any, that is, let's put a batsman who is raw on the same level. You're not going to take that because you, as a Vincent said, a batsman, there's so many things that you have to be able to conquer as a batter that requires a higher level of skill at that, in Test cricket. That no, you ain't gonna take no raw person like that at all. You know,
Blairy, for example, Blair. I mean,
mhm,
Blair had no
Favorite
technique,
player.
but it's just strength. He had and Blairy came late in his age. Blairy didn't play youth cricket and them kinds of stuff. You know,
mhm,
when we hear about Blairy was in Case Cup for DCC, and nobody is just, you know, where the heck did this guy come from with all this pace? But his
mhm,
action was totally different. You know,
mhm,
of course, when they tried to change it. But here's another thing. Why the great Sir Clyde Walcott, when Sir Clyde was chairman, I think he was head of the Guyana Cricket Board. But anyway, he was in charge of cricket somewhere in Guyana.
mhm,
The very first Benson Hedges or youth tournament, well, we had one in 1966. That was we call it a school-wise tour because it wasn't really sponsored
mhm,
by the West Indies Cricket Board. It was sponsored by by the school associations. Anyway, in 1968, that tournament was an under 21 tournament. And you know what Clyde Walcott said? Clyde Walcott said, no, Guyana will not be playing under 21 players because by the time you get to 21, you should be playing Test cricket.
yeah,
Clyde Walcott is for the Guyana team. The Guyana team was an under 19 team, the only under 19 team that was playing in an under 21 tournament in 1968 in Barbados, and we won that tournament. And then the next year, that's how it became the under 19 tournament. It was under 21 in the first year.
mm,
So Clyde
right,
Walcott recognized. He said, by the time you get to 21, you should be playing Test cricket already.
yeah,
And so that's and I gotta give you another story. I gotta forget, yeah, so Clyde, yeah. I gotta give you.
I'm reading this now. It's a really good read.
Yeah. So here what happened with that story I just tell you. So Guyana made another rule. So we played in 66, as I told you, which was a schoolboys tournament. Alvin made a 90 something. Alvin did well. So Alvin went to the 67 trials, which is the January, make 100 in the trials, got a game in Shell Shield in the islands. I think he made 12 or something. And they decided to pick Alvin in that Shell Shield game, that one Shell Shield game. In the 69 schoolboys tournament, in 68, because Alvin played in 67 for Guyana, Clyde Walker then put another rule: if you play for Guyana, you can't play in the under in the youth tournament.
Really?
So Alvin did not get to play in 68 nor 69. And but what happened in 69? They changed the rule when I had already played Shell Shield in January. They went and changed the rule, so I was allowed to play in 69 August, and Alvin would never let me forget that. Alvin would cuss me down and all kinds of stuff. So they changed the rule, and I played in 69, come back after play Shell Shield, and come back and play in 69, and Alvin couldn't play in 68. But the point is, Clyde Walcott recognized that, and he said exactly what we're saying here. When you get to 21, you should be playing for playing Test cricket already. So you shouldn't be playing.
yeah. I mean, on that note, I guess my dad probably learned that from him too, because in 1980, I was 15 at the time. I got picked for the upper dem under 23, and my father was in England watching the Test series. So when he came back, he heard I got selected, and he called Arby Quamina and said, I hope you all didn't pick this guy because he named Basil Butcher and so on, right? And Kwame said, no, yeah, Butch, Basil make the team on merit and so on. So after he got off the phone, he turned to me. He said, "You think you can handle Malcolm Marshall?" I said, "Me and no." I said, "Me and no." What he was trying to illustrate to me at under 23, Marshall was 22 at the time. He said, "That's the kind is big men like they going to play cricket against now. There's big mark going to play men who play test. A man could be a test cricketer that you could be playing against at under 23. So it's the same team of you being at a certain age." And he always used to say, "When you reach 19, you should be ready to play test cricket." That was his motto. So boy, once you get to 19, you should be ready to be play test cricket.
But I could never forget that 68 tournament, because that's why I say that has to be the best Guyana, the most accomplished Guyana on the 19 team. When they picked that team, Dr. Hines and Basil, I know it's gonna sound like a laugh story. Nobody knew each other except for myself and Keith Aaron and whoever else played in 66. Since 68, we had no trials, we had nothing. They pick a team. But here's the laugh about it. They pick a man who never existed. It was that bad. Here's the guy cricket board. Pick a name that never existed. So we showed up at this hotel in Georgetown to catch the flight to fly into Barbados. And 12 of us, it's supposed to be 13, 12 of us and the manager. And they're looking for this name. Nobody never heard this name before, but he was picked in the team. So when we went to Barbados, we decided they had to send an SOS. They had to bring in another player. That was when Harris, this boy Harris from West Bobbies, that was how Gladstone Harris got into it. He came late. Gladstone came late because this person that they picked never
existed.
Yeah. So,
a phantom man, a real phantom pick.
And here's the other thing. And we had a manager. We never saw the manager. We had a team. Nobody know each other. We never saw the manager. And there are all kinds of stuff around that. So Keith Aaron, the late Keith Aaron, and I really we were captain and vice captain and managing the team at the same time. So, but the point is, we won the tournament, even though we played against under 21s. Richard D'Souza and all of these guys had already played Shell Shield. And we were only on the 19 team and won that tournament in Barbados with an on the 19 team without the manager. But we became a very close senior team. I believe every single member on the 19 team played for Guyana. Everyone.
Vince Adams, imagine a team.
Except for Sutherland. Sutherland went away, but Sutherland, yeah.
Imagine a team. So you all learned to rig elections in Zimbabwe. having people on the voters list who didn't exist.
A phantom man.
Oh boy, the more you live, the more you learn.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sir.
a good story. I wish Keith used to remember the guy's name. It was an Indian guy, an Indian name, but Keith used to remember the boy name, but I couldn't. That was as Gladstone Harris. That's how Gladstone had to be flown in for that court who never. And this is the guy in the cricket board picked this man. I know.
Gentlemen, let's get to this West Indies captaincy team. I guess we would end up not spending as much time on the captaincy, but on the vice captaincy. And then we have some insular questions which are going to be arising because both the vice captain and vice captain are from the same country, Barbados. And I think if we look back at our recent captains and so on, Barbados really has had the bulk of captains. But let me pose my question, which is my beef, which is this system of points. How many points? They interviewed these 6 people and apparently arrive at their conclusion not based on instinct, not based on understanding of the game, not based on tactical prowess, not based on man management, those things that we associate with a captain, but based on a point system, which worries me. Does it worry you all the same as it worry me? Starting with you, Basil.
Yeah, I feel all of those things that I saw the categories because I did a podcast earlier today, and the host of the podcast, had all the categories: leadership, knowledge of the game, respect of your teammates, and so on, and then the psychometric test, right? And I said, in my view, that is what you should be doing with all the players because that's part of the makeup of a player. That should not be what you use to select a captain, right? Because for me, my primary criteria of going with Chase is the experience factor. Because when you would have played 49 test matches, 90 test innings, you would have seen everything there is to see in test cricket. There's nothing in test cricket that would surprise you. Chase has played more test cricket than my father. He has played more test cricket than Andy Roberts. So to put it in context, because I was having this conversation, and when I said to Sir Randy, Chase played for the night test, he said, what? He said, I played for the seven, and I saw everything there is to see in test. I was making that point to him, and he agreed that, yes, when you have played that amount of test matches, your experience of seeing everything there is to see, nothing going to surprise you. And for me, that was what weighted the most for me. When I looked around at the other candidates, the more experience, because similar to Clive, when Sir Clive got the captaincy, all his other contenders had not had the cricket experience that he had despite he had limited captaincy experience similar to Chase. But because of his experience and what he had seen, that plays a big role in how he could vision, how he would like to craft a team, and the things he would have seen, the mistakes. Because if you read some of his books, his two books, he talked about some of the experiences that he saw as a player that he knew if he was a captain, those things he will not repeat, right? And a simple thing, what he saw as a captain was the cliques, right? And when he became captain, one of the first things he did was make sure roommates were not from the same place. That guys get to know each other across island, nationality, cultures, and so on, because he had seen what his experience as a player, and so he was able to kind of take away things that he felt that had a negative impact in the development of a team culture. So I found Chase's experience would be very important on that front, especially to more so a relatively young team, similar to what Sir Clive came into. It was a relatively young. He had a few veterans around, such as Fredo, Gibbs, Derek Murray, and Van Bernholder to a less extent. But most of the other guys were guys who were like 2 years, a year, are now starting their test career, right? So I think that factor for me played a heavy role, and all this testing thing. This is my whole view. I think Sammy wanted Chase, but how are they going to sell Chase as captain? Hadn't played in the team for 2 years, right? And his performance, why he was left out of the team for those couple of years, and even prior to that, he was dropped. His performances were sketchy. How are we going to sell this, right? So they say, all right, look what we're going to do. We're gonna come up, because since we are now data driven, as they like their moniker these days, we're data driven. We're gonna come up with some process that we can hide behind. If the people come at me, look, we had this process. This is how we came about selecting a captain. We had a deliberate process, and the word that has been leaked out, Warrican scored the highest on the process. Now, there's no way you could sell to the West Indian public Warrakan for captain. So he got the what you would call it, the what's the word you would use? The consolation vice captain. And by the way, for people, Warrakan is not a Bajan. Warrakan is from
He's
St.
a
Vincent.
Vincentian. He's Vincentian. He's a Vincentian. Technically, he's a
Yes,
Vincentian.
yes, yes.
His father went to work at UE, and so that's
Yes, correct. Exactly. Exactly.
Kville.
Mhm.
Adi, your thoughts on this new scoring system? Basil is saying it was a convenience rather than something that is going to become a permanent
Well,
approach.
actually, they have said in their release this will be the approach we're going to use in the future.
God help.
So, Dr. Hines, we may have more of these conversations down the road.
God help me.
Here is it's sad, and I've seen it firsthand too, and I'm sure that you guys have seen it. You see, we still have this colonial mentality in us. Okay, somebody comes to us with something that sounds sophisticated and nice, and because of our ignorance and as to how the real world works, we accept it. We don't even understand. You want to tell me this foolishness about metrics to pick a captain? First of all, captaincy of the West Indies team is a leadership role. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with you've already established yourself that you've got the technical capability. It's no different from running a cooperation. For
Mhm.
example, my thing is an engineer. I got to the highest level of the US government, not as an engineer. I've already established that in the Department of Energy. I understand the technical issues. I can ask the right questions. I could, understand when, when folks bring stuff to me, at least I understand what they're talking about from the technical side, which is the same thing analogous to cricket. The
Mhm.
captain understands those type of things. So you're looking for a leader. It's a leader among everybody who knows the game. So you don't have to go through no tests and this kind of foolishness. Okay, you pick
Mhm.
you pick a person, and that's what as a leader you put emphasis on leadership when you get to that level. And leadership is about leading people. It's about leading change. It's what we call political savvy. And political savvy means, management and all this kinds of stuff. And of course,
Mhm.
results oriented and communicating. Those are the five elements that we have to, that's how we were trained and our performance were measured. Is those that had nothing to do with whether I had a PhD or what the heck I have in engineering. So you've passed that stage. You look to these folks, and the other thing is, you not forget they and ask you've got the man who paid for the 7 tests, and the others play some tests. So the administration knows these people in terms of their political savvy and how they relate to people. They don't have to come and ask me who applying for this job and I don't know if it's an injury. What do you think I can say? Or what do you think I would be coached into saying? I would go and read
Mhm.
the book and pass that test. The
Correct.
leaders for corporations are picked from people who have come through that cooperation or who've established a career already that you understand what that leadership is. They don't have anything to do with they have nothing to do with this nonsense about metric. And Basil might be right. Basil might think it's just a cover for the pretext of who they pick. But getting back to Chase, I support I support Chase as the captain because of his experience, etc. And I see this team now as transitioning. So we need that
Mhm.
see, somebody with that experience. And I don't know the guy, but he seems to be a very cool-headed. And
Yes.
I
Yes.
hear people talking about he doesn't make his plays because he's averaging 20 something. Hell, how many of them do enter averaging
All of them. All of
10?
them. All of
And
them.
on top of
All of
that,
them.
he can bowl his tight off spin and that thing. And on
Mhm.
top of that, he could feel better than probably
Yes,
90% of them in the team.
yes, really
Correct. He's a
complete among
He's
very
the
good
fitter
fielder.
than
Very good fielder.
almost every one of them.
Yes. 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 I,
But,
I,
but here's the thing that shocked me though. The part that shocked me is the Warrakan pick.
of
If
course. Me too.
if you're gonna pick if you decide, well, okay, I understand Chase's transition, etc. Wouldn't you pick somebody like an understudy who can learn.
Mm-hmm.
Or even say, well, okay, we got a lot of youngsters that we're looking at. Well, rotate the vice captaincy. Say for this series,
Vincent,
a young
we are.
the next series we've got an Athanaze. So they're
Mhm.
an understudy to Chase because they can justify picking Chase because of his experience. But Chase is not going to be around for more than, I don't know, 2 years or 3 years.
Exactly.
So it's a transition to pick some of the younger players. To me, Amlak is one of those that have
Mm-hmm.
established himself as the
Mm-hmm.
best keeper, and he can bat. So
Mm-hmm.
give those youngsters to understudy him. So this year is just brain dead, or it's just because because of the biases that we have, and preferential treatment to where we came from.
I said, I said the same thing. This is my position on the vice captain. I said we don't need to name no vice captain because we have, unfortunately, in Western Legacy, vice captains rarely ascend to become the captain, right? So since, and I view Chase just like what Vincent is saying. I view Chase as captain minimum for the next this test cycle 25 through 27. Now we got a couple of young players who that we think that can elevate, but at this point, I feel they need to continue to build on their experience, both as a player, to be more consistent, and leadership experience. So what I would do, because I would rotate the vice captain, as Vincent said. That's what I would say. I might even do test to test because these days we do not have enough tests to play per year that we could say, we can just get one guy to be a vice captain. Let's do it test for test. So we're putting them in those leadership roles and seeing them in real life, how they respond. So come say 2 years down the road, we have got, and to use their term, we have enough data collected on we have real data collected on these players in those roles that we could say, all right, we got these three guys. We could make a decision which one we think based on what we have seen of them.
I associate myself with your sentiments, and I want to bring in two factors. One that is real that we don't talk about, but you can see it from comments here, comments that I have seen
Mhm.
every island. And there's the one on the screen here. Where
Yeah.
obviously
Mhm.
the insularity. Clear.
Yes.
Oh my God, man. I mean, it is not a case where Warwican has this ton of experience. You really,
Uh,
you know, are you not sensitive to the insularity? And you could have avoided it because, like I said, it's not that Warwican he has a case that you can't ignore, you know. So one, the insularity. Then the other thing is the team itself. We're not talking about the squad now. Because if you're talking about the two Josephs, you're talking about Seals, who's the leader of the attack.
mm,
You're talking about Roach is still there. He hasn't gone anywhere, and they haven't retired him, so he's still there. Jason
mhm.
Older says he comes back.
Yeah. Mhm.
Warwican, there, you're talking about six bowlers, six frontline bowlers. All right, you have the captain can hold his own as a bowler, but the
Yeah,
captain,
very useful, useful,
right?
useful.
But you have six bowlers. All right, what are you going to do here? How does Warwican, as the vice captain, break into that team where you have fast bowlers who must play? Must play. Where are you
Mhm.
going to fit in? Are you going to have a heavy laden bowling team? So
Well,
I'm putting those practical questions to you all.
Yeah, well, Dr. Hines, vice captains could get dropped, right?
I
So,
know that. I know that. But
right. So we may definitely have the difficult task in the very near future, or or more should I say, the uncomfortable task of Warwick sitting, because based on conditions and the team you're playing, Warrican may not be the best thing. It's better to have a fast bowler or somebody playing and have Chase to be a holding bowler and maybe could take a wicket or two and so on. Because on the thing of Chase, I had a discussion earlier today, and sometimes people use stats very interestingly, and it was knocking saying Chase got a strike rate of 79. So then I smiled to myself and I said, y'all, do you know that the greatest off spinner that West Indies ever produced and one of the greatest the world has ever seen in landscapes, his strike rate is 87? And you want to tell me that you're knocking Chase for 79? And then the person saying to me about the game has evolved and so on. I said, no. Landscapes was picked as a match-winning bowler. He was one of our bowlers that we looking to bowl out a team with. Chase has never been put in that category ever in his career, right? And to take 300 wickets in an era that he played where men that sometimes could have used the pad and kick and all different kind of story, right? Don't use strike rate, especially for spinners, because there's so many ways in which the spinner's role could be in a different situation. Because there probably were times Landscapes was bowling, he had to be bowling to hold to keep that side tight rather than looking to out somebody. So he's gonna bowl a lot of more balls before he can out somebody. So looking at a strike rate to dismiss a bowler, a spin bowler particularly, is not something you want to look at. You know what I mean? So I view Chase, and I what's interesting thing about Chase reminds me a bit like Carl Hooper in terms of his bowling. How as he has played more Test cricket, etc., he has become a better bowler, a more useful bowler that you could come down, the captain could throw the ball to and feel maybe he could get a wicket or he could do the job of holding.
Here is what again I don't know what goes through these guys' head. When you're picking a team, I understand that a vice captain could get dropped. But when you're picking a team, when you pick a captain and vice captain, you're thinking about dropping it to them.
No.
The two of them are assumed to be, they've earned
11. Yes.
So, Warrican has not earned his long time stay in this team. Warrican had the only good series that he's had in ages is coming
Pakistan.
From. How is he going to do
in helpful conditions? In helpful conditions.
How is he going to do?
Very helpful.
So here you picking a man that had one good series in I can't go back and see where, but you're picking him as the vice captain. What are you saying? And then like both of you, talked about, he's competing with 6 other bowlers, but you put him as vice captain you're giving the impression that this man is about to play in the team, and he should not be. He should not be.
Once you have Chase as the captain, you already take off the spin ball. You're going to St. Lucia. You're going to St. Lucia, for example, quick wicket, and so on. You got Fields, the two Joseph. You're going to be hard pressed to leave out Jason Holder. So you're talking about 4 seamers.
Yeah.
Of
and
course.
you still have Chase. You still got to fit Chase in. I think they've got to do a rotating thing between Chase and probably Shamar, because Shamar, the fitness story, Shamar may not even make it through 3 tests.
Right.
All right?
That's
but
true.
You have 5 fast bowlers, 4 of whom must play. And now you're going to bring in Warrican, who bound to play. I like the bound to play, right? So there are 5. You now leave 6 batsmen, including your keeper.
Inexperienced batting at that.
Inexperienced batting.
And if I'm to pick a team today, to be honest, I cannot pick Warrican going on the St. Lucia wicket based on his performance in
right.
I would prefer to go with Moti.
That's right.
And not only going because at least Moti would even add some strength to the batting either.
But Moti's not going to even make it in the squad. Moti's not going to make it in the squad. Yep. But once Warrican become bound to play, and Chase And Chase is your captain who bound to play. So you have two spinners who are bound to play. So
the other thing I would say, this is my view. I think we already know who 6 of the players in the test squad already. Because if you gonna tell, if I waited to see when this test squad name, because if all 6 of them not in there, they West Indies board gotta answer a question that you would interview a guy to be captain of the team, and you would think it. That would be the most.
I hadn't even thought of that, Basil, but
you can't be interviewing a man for captain and you're picking the man of the team.
I mean, if you have Campbell and Brad Reith, who, in my estimation, must open, right?
Yeah.
I am not willing to get rid of Atenes yet. All right. So I am going to say Atenes. You got to pick one, then buy for keep. Right? That's 4. Assuming Chase is coming at 6. Right? You got Hodge. You got what's his name?
You got Atenes and Hodge.
Right. You got
and say, let's say we say Chase at 6.
Yeah.
So who you played at 5? Graves or Django?
Django.
That's right.
And what if Hope says I'm available to play Test cricket?
Well, I think Hope won't play Test cricket. He turned down the captaincy.
He turned down the captaincy thing, but
yeah. I don't think he wants to play Test cricket. But also who comes into the play in the middle order is De Silva. Because I see if De Silva is being interviewed, I see De Silva as part of the squad
of the mix,
and you're not gonna pick a squad at home with a quote unquote backup a real backup wicket keeper. You're picking a guy who is gonna play that also could wicket keep in the event something happened to the first choice wicket keeper, right? So I see De Silva would be that next guy in that lineup. So it would look something with Atenes, Hodge, De Silva, and Chase. Those are the 4 middle order batsmen.
Yeah, and don't rule out if somebody like Anderson does well in the A team because he has
well, then he could put up his hands there. He could put up his hands.
But guys, I don't agree with Basil. I don't agree with Basil about this Silva and Imlak thing. I think Imlak has to seal up that position because
no. When I say De Silva play, he played as a batsman, not a keeper.
I've always said that he and when you are talking about all these names, Atenes and all of them, there's a big mix. All of them are equal as far as I'm concerned in getting
exactly.
De Silva's in there, so I am picking none of them because so any of them will get picked, I am fine with them because when
exactly.
De Silva, Atenes, and all of them.
It's 20-something average batters. It's 20-something average batters.
The only people who I would say as batsmen is Campbell. I think Orn's place. Of course, Prophet. Imlak because he's a wicketkeeper.
Yes, as a keeper.
Yes.
And then you had the captain. That's already 4.
That's 4. That's 4 in the top 7. The top 7.
That's exactly correct. So, and then you got Holder there. I don't see, I've always said, I don't see how Holder will be left out. So Holder is going to come maybe at 7.
Got play.
You know? So it's only only got maybe 2 slots.
That's right. That's right.
So all of them are in that mix. All of them are equal in that mix.
Yeah.
Moti and Sinclair are out. Yes, boy. Sinclair as Shamad. Sinclair as on the wind, on the perform.
Yeah.
And so
you
can't I love him. I think he's an asset to West Indies cricket, but he hasn't bowled. Well, he's not even a frontline bowler for Guyana.
Correct.
Sinclair, right?
Yeah. That's true.
His batting has fallen off, and so he needs to get into the A team. And try to do well there and look to the future. But I don't see him in my squad. I don't see him in my squad. Moti can be in the squad with
Chase and Warwican. Not in the Caribbean. Not in the Caribbean.
And here's the fallacy about this whole Warwican thing. Why he said that I would not even pick him in the force. Yeah. He went to Sri Lanka. You gotta give him credit to
Pakistan. You mean Pakistan? Pakistan.
Sorry. What he did, he went high. He floated and but that's a different type of wicket. When you float, you get bite and all this kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
You come to the West Indies, man,
can't do that.
For go down the wicket for me, T. The kind of ball, you have a Frankie going as soon as he can't go high like he used to go and flight in and all that kind of stuff that he got away with in Pakistan. Because in Pakistan, you could flight. Because when you flight, when the ball, even when you drive, you can't drive through the line, right? Because
the ball turning.
The ball might left you halfway down the wicket and take
exactly.
In the West Indies, he can get away with that type of stuff. So all this stuff, he cannot be played based on his performance in Pakistan.
We gotta look at the conditions that you're playing in the West Indies.
They're playing in St. Lucia.
No. They're playing in Barbados, Grenada, and Jamaica. And Jamaica.
So no St.
Barbados. No, St. Lucia is where the South. The 18 series play.
18 series.
Well,
right.
Yes.
I would only if it was Trinidad. If it was Trinidad with the test, well, that was something different because at least that's a spin on.
Right.
They ain't got no spin place. We play in Jamaica, Barbados, and Grenada.
And the Grenada wicket got some spice in it. It may not be as spicy as the St. Lucian wicket, but it generally got some spice. Gentlemen, so the IPL confusion. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the IPL this year.
Neither do I.
I know Adi didn't. But anyhow, they had the story with the drone. Some of them by come home and so on.
Yes.
They get picked now, they gone back, and the team got to be reshuffled. I am happy that Campbell comes in. I think Campbell should be in our one-day team. Even before.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree.
His countryman, King. I think
Brandon King.
Yes, I think Campbell is even better suited to the one-day game than the test game. So I think he should have been there in the first place. So Campbell comes in, the Blades come in,
and your man, Hetmeyer.
My bad did the usual thing. I am not available for Ireland. I'm available for England.
He better watch himself even in the IPL for next year because
he's been a shell of himself, man.
He has forgotten how to bat.
Yeah.
And you come in there from one number one fan. I can't bear to watch that by. You know.
Well, I can tell you, Dr. Hines, I'm looking forward and I hope he gets to play in England. Because let's see what he still has, right?
Basil, you're too diabolical, I know.
I believe. Now that I'm looking at it this way, I believe that's what Sammy is thinking. Sammy is thinking because Sammy feel Hetty is a talented batter. But Sammy, like everybody else, would have seen how he has digressed in the last 2 years. And Sammy is using this opportunity to see if Hetty still has what it takes to be a good player at the international level. And why not use this series in England? I think Sammy is throwing out a lifeline to Hetmeyer to say, boss, this is a serious chance. Your career is at crossroads when it comes to international cricket, and even in club cricket, because I mean the domestic T20 scene. Because if you go back and look, Hetmeyer got all his big money off of what he did with the West Indies team. Made 100 against India in the ODI. You get the first $1 million. when he made the next 100 against India and another ODI before the IPL thing, he gets another $1 million. So it is off the strength of what he did for the West Indies that got him that big money in IPL. And I hope he remembers that his West Indies performance will count greatly in terms of his future making big money in all of these domestic leagues.
Adi?
No, I agree. Except that I think it's more diabolical than that. I think Sammy wants to get his behind, get 30
Get rid of him. You think Sammy wants to get rid of him? Carry it to the top.
For once, for once and for all to done with this Etty.
Sammy will be saying, I'm tired of hearing people like
yeah.
talk to me down all the
time. I gotta leave in a couple minutes, but I want to just say this. It reminds me, you remember when Sarwan was out of the West Indies team for that period? And then they recall Sarwan. Where they recall Sarwan to? Sarwan didn't play cricket for nearly 2 years. And I remember Sarwan telling me, he said, Butch, I had to hustle up to get gears because I didn't think I could play back cricket. That's all right. So Sarwan, they carried Sarwan to Australia, where the first 2 games playing on Port. And a rampaging Mitchell Stark, who was a much younger Mitchell Stark, was the man. SARS got to come back into international and face up Mitchell Stark, who could swing it back into a right-hander at high pace on Port. And we saw the disaster that occurred. The first ball SARS get from Mitchell Stark come back. SARS was so late that the stumps was flying before the bat come down. The next game, similar, except the ball hit the pad instead of the stumps, LBW. SARS' career was over. Deliberate. I remember I had a conversation with him, and they had a Zimbabwean thing coming up, right? I said, man, SARS, they should have waited and bring you to Zimbabwe. Say, ease your way back into the tech ups. You know what I mean? But throw you out there against Australia. They wanted to fail him and don't want to hear about SARS again.
I think that's what Sammy's setting this up for.
Yes, that's similar. That's true.
Diabolical. If that is true, Adams, I'm holding you responsible.
Hi, Basil, I'm tired listening to Dr. Hines and yeah.
It's all right. For once, I'm gonna bring y'all man back, man. I'm tired of hearing y'all complaining. Now we gonna play. He getting to play in England.
It's always a pleasure to come here and
yes, sir.
And
yeah, man.
We've had quite a
yeah,
lot
man.
about. And as is it Jeffrey is saying here, there's going to be a surprise for you all when the team name.
I wouldn't be. You never know.
We shall see. But we're going to be back here next week, Sunday.
Okay. Yeah, because by then we would have. At least 2 matches would have been played in Ireland by then, I think.
By then,
yes. No matches playing in Ireland again.
They're playing 3 ODIs. Then they go to England and play 3 ODIs. Then they go back to Ireland and play 3 T20s, and then they come back to England and play 3 T20s.
Yeah.
And it all starts on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So we have
the Ireland series starts on Wednesday.
Yes.
The first ODI on Wednesday.
Okay.
Actually, if you're into women's cricket, both the West Indies men and women will be playing on Wednesday morning.
We'll be playing on Wednesday, and gentlemen, my bad. I've gotten a lot of calls from women. We do, and Butcher, I blame you because I say you more than me and Adi.
I mean, look, there's some things I would like to talk about women's cricket. I will save that for next week because I think in the Guyana Cricket Board and other entities within the cricket administration in Guyana are not doing right by the women cricketers. I mean, they will pat themselves on the back because Guyana women won the regional T20 tournament recently. But all of those things, that is not really a reflection of what is going on with the women's cricket and the development of the players. And then you will hear others going to jump, oh, we got 6 girls, 6 women in the West Indies women's team. Yeah, right. But how good are they? That is the point.
How good are they? All right, we're gonna make sure we touch on that next week.
Okay, right on.
Discuss it.
Right.
We're gonna discuss.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you all very much. And to you all in the audience, faithful as ever. Thanks for staying with us. We're going to be back next week when we will continue to have our robust discussion. We didn't get to touch on all of your stuff. A lot of you feel strongly about the insularity that is creeping in, or that could be a consequence of the decision made by Cricket West Indies. But of course, that's an issue that never goes away. So next week, I'm sure we will come back to that. See you all next week.
Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Guyana posse?